Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smart Trucking Live. Hope everyone's well out there. Josh Bulldog joining us. Good to see you, Josh, or hear from you at least. Kelly Patterson's here. He likes Western Stars, and I have to say I do too. Alabama DS is broken down as we speak on the side of the road, leaking oil with the Cummins X15. Not good to hear that kind of stuff, but hopefully they'll get to you soon. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. It won't cost you big money. Grafton's here. Roger Penske's here. SoCal Sandman is here. And I wanted to tell you, sir, that I have found your Adams polish. It's available in Canada and right here in our town at a local hardware store. They started stocking it. So I'm going to go get a couple of bottles right after the stream. So appreciate the tip on that. Lee Harvey's here. Hey, Lee. Fred Besmer's here. Hey, Fred, how are you doing? Walcott, Iowa. Not too bad a place to be. Been there once or twice myself. David Richards here. Lee Harvey's here. Mylan Rotar is here. Mario Montego. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Mario Montejo is here. Ross is here. Shockproof is here. AJ Leninger. Butchered that one too, probably. Patrick Jerry is here. Glad you guys could all join us today. Nice to see you here. Today's topic, I guess, for the live stream is we talked about emissions engines a week or two ago, but we never really got into what everyone's favorite engine was. And everyone, I think almost all professional drivers have a favorite. Josh up here asked me whether I thought the Cummins X15 or the PACCAR which was the best. And I didn't know. So it's frankly, I had Googled it the other day because I wasn't sure. I would have picked PACCAR. But Google reports that PACCAR is the engine that has the least breakdowns these days, according to Google anyway. But I've never had a PACCAR engine. But I want to know which engine you guys prefer. I know SoCal Sandman likes his Cummins, and it's sure been good to him. And Marty Madigan that we had on here a little while back that did the ice road trucking, his favorite engine was the Detroit, with good reason. 3 million miles on that thing, so you sure can't complain about that. So let me see what you guys like for engines.
In the meantime, tell about your experience with Detroit.
My experience with Detroit, Kathy and I have owned 2 Detroits in the course of our little trucking career, and the Lettuce King drove one of them. Didn't care for it at all. You may have heard me tell the story. He was at the truck show in Walcott, and we had this new purple Kenworth with a great big bunk, and the Detroit rep at the truck stop at Walcott at the show asked him what he thought of the motor. The Lettuce King went up one side of him, down the other, telling him what a dogless piece of crap it was. And they ended up sending him to a speed shop that was managed and owned by Detroit Diesel and sent him in for a tune-up. And he said it came back just a different truck at all. He said it just rolled like a locomotive after they tuned it. So it was all in the tuning. But as pleased as he was with that engine, he still went back to Caterpillar. But we only had 2 of them, and we never had trouble with either one, really, which is, yeah, that's, that was what was important to me.
You didn't own them that long.
No, and I didn't own them that long either. I think we only kept either one of those trucks. I think we only kept them a couple of years, but they were good while we had them. I was a Cummins guy, and I got into a fight with Cummins over warranty just about the time I ran into the Lettuce King, and I was telling him first time we'd ever met, and I was telling him about my woes with Cummins, and he told me I was an idiot. I should be running Caterpillar. The next truck I bought a Caterpillar, and I bought Caterpillars ever since after that. So he converted me, and I was really happy with the Cats because the service on them was so excellent. And I have it still now, my last one, over 1 million 100,000 miles on it and still running strong. I'm going to sneak it up for an oil change tomorrow, up to the shop. But what do you guys had good luck with in the way of engines?
SoCal.
I must be in the wrong SoCal one because he's
Way down the pipe.
talking about his knee in that one. Just help me, Kathy. Which comment is it? Oh, here it is. My Cummins ISX is at 2,375,000 miles as of last night. Well, you sure can't complain about that. That's excellent. That's what you want in a truck engine. Our friend Richard has over 3 million on his 600 Caterpillar, C16 Caterpillar. That truck works every day still. Yeah, Fred says the 6NZ Cat is bulletproof, and yeah, it has been for us. They've been really good motors. Here's Joe Cummings says for local and vocational work, never anything better than the N675 or the NDT 676 Maxidine. There you are, Josh. There you are right there. Mac, I don't know, I don't even know how many engines Mac actually makes themselves anymore, but they certainly were good in their day. I had, geez, what year was that one I drove for Richardson's? It was like a 1975, and that thing ran like a Swiss watch, and in the worst conditions too. I was working in terrible conditions in the wintertime in northern Alberta. That motor never let me down. Up there, if the motor quits up north like that, you could freeze to death overnight. So I was always really happy I had a good engine for that. Wayne Blue says, hello from Ohio. Volume is a little soft. I'll try to get closer to the mic here. Thanks, Wayne. Tanker Monkey is here. 98 Detroit 60 series 12.7 liter, never let me down ever. All sorts of guys have had really good luck with those 60 series Detroit motors. All sorts of them. They've been a really good engine. Thank you for throwing that in, Tanker Monkey. Appreciate it. SoCal Sandman says he is a Cummins guy, but knows for a fact that Cat's a good engine. They are. You know what I liked best about Cat was the way anytime I ever had an issue or warranty claim or anything like that, they just stepped right up to the plate. They didn't argue, they didn't question, they were absolutely, bring it in, we'll fix it. And it was like that the entire time I've owned Caterpillars. And I think they have a great dealership network, and that was a big part of why I like their engines so much. But it's funny, and I think every engine manufacturer can pump out a dog once in a while. I think that just happens, but the idea is, though, you want an engine that never lets you down and makes you money. Lee Harvey likes the 2003 550 Cat, so a 6NZ motor. Yeah, those are sought after engines these days.
My Detroit DD13 is great, but the after treatment sucks.
Oh, you've got, yeah, and the new engines. The new engines can be fine, but the after treatment can suck on them. You hate to blame that on the engine manufacturer because they've been forced to do it, but yeah, it does kind of color your opinion of the motor, even though it's the emission system that's messing you up. Who's that from? Nomadic Brit said that. Yeah. Everyone has trouble with the emissions treatments, so it's almost not even fair to count them, but they are part of the engine these days. Joe Cummings says the mechanical Caterpillars were great motors. Yes, they were. The 3406, yeah, and the parts. That was always a problem with Cat. I'll say that. And he's right on the head there with the hammer. Is Cat parts are expensive. Cat service is expensive. Cat shops are expensive. They're no deal. They're no deal financially. That is true. Like I priced to in-frame mine now at over 1 million miles. And they want $40,000 to in-frame my engine. So not a cheap deal. Lee Harvey says we've got an X15 needing an overall. Cummins says parts are at least 2 months out. All sorts of people are having issues with getting parts and stuff like that, and it's not just Cummins. It's just, I guess, because of the pandemic and a lot of the plants were shut down. A lot of them just aren't up to full capacity, and there's stuff now that they've run out of, like these microchips, for instance. So yeah, that was something else that was always an issue for trucks, was how readily truck engines, how readily you could get parts for them too. And I ran into one guy that he was waiting for. He had a European engine. He'd been waiting 2 months for them to fly him over the piece that he needed. he was pretty fed up. I don't blame him. Hey, Smart Trucking, just 22, just started in January. Just wanted to say thanks for all the knowledgeable videos. Taught me a lot about the trucking industry that I probably wouldn't never have known about. Juan, thank you for saying so. That's nice. Welcome to the trucking industry. I hope it treats you well. I really do. I know I've always enjoyed it.
Patrick Jerry, thank you very much for the $5 donation. He says mine is a 3406E, 600 horsepower from factory. And also Kelly Patterson, thank you very much for the $10 donation. Really appreciate the donations today, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate that very much. There is a reason the sweet trucks are mostly Detroit diesel. Not even the inexperienced idiots can screw one of them up, and the exhaust systems work quite well without failure. Roger Penske. Roger's saying they're kind of a bulletproof motor, and certainly that's a good thing in this industry, is to have a bulletproof piece of equipment. Same with transmissions. Man, if you get a bulletproof transmission, a lot of guys knock the old 10-speed transmissions. You couldn't kill those things, though. They were bulletproof as well. Hey, Michael Mueller's here. Hey, Mike, you scrolled right by me and I didn't catch it. How are you doing? Best engine, common rail diesel. Michael Mueller knows a little bit about engines. Excellent. Nomadic Brit said we just had to replace a one box system and it was $14,000. Yeah, none of this stuff is cheap these days anymore. And I think the manufacturers lost a lot of ground through this pandemic, so I think they've all upped their prices to try to recoup some of that money that they've lost with everything going so slow for about a year. I think that hurt a lot of industry, a lot of people too. Patrick Jerry has the 3406E right from the factory, 600 horse. Yeah, good motor.
That was a donation whenever we had it, like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
While you were reading.
Tim Field, I want a 3408. It's my dream engine in a 389 glider kit day cab. The 3408s are getting hard to find too, and they were an amazing engine, but the fuel bill was high on them. But the Lettuce King had more than a couple of those. But a great engine, getting really hard to find anymore.
Captain Nice Guy coming in with the $20. Thank you very much for that, Captain Nice Guy. Really appreciate your support to the stream. Glad you could make it today, by the way.
Matt's Garage says the 8LL is a pretty tough transmission also. That's true. I don't even think they still make those. I could be wrong, Matt's Garage, but yeah, they were a very tough transmission. Scott Kuhn says, hey Scott, welcome. He says the 10-speed sucks in the wintertime. Yeah, the other thing I didn't like about the 10-speed too is sometimes that jump from 9th to 10th was a big jump, and you could throw it into the last hole, and then you almost needed a tailwind and a downhill road to pick up the last gear in them because of the spread being so far. But good transmissions. Yeah, Kelly Patterson says supply and demand will do that to prices. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Kyle's got a 3408 for sale. Heads up, who was just looking for that 3408? But Kyle's got one. You guys hook up, you can work out a deal. Huh. Nomadic Brit, is anybody suffering from the fuel problem here in the south because of the Colonial Pipeline? That's a big deal. That is a really big deal. It'll be interesting to see how hard it hurts. They're just starting to feel the pain now. Lee Harvey says, I can't believe nobody's mentioned the rolling oil slick 8V79071 TA. He's talking about the old Detroit, and that was probably the worst engine that I had ever encountered. Was the silver 92, they used to call it. And I had a friend that we called Logical Bob, and he bought a new cab over Freightliner in 78, 79, and religiously that motor would grenade at 80,000 miles. And the third time it happened, Detroit rebuilt it for warranty, for free. But the third time after that, Logical Bob traded the whole truck just to get rid of the motor. Could I move the mic a little closer? Thank you, Tim. We're working on it here. Hope that's better. Matt's Garage. If I was to build a glider, it would be an 1800 high hood with an N14 mechanical and a 15-speed. And that was exactly the combination that I was running before I encountered the Lettuce King. And I really liked the 15 over. I really did. And the Cummins, the N14 that I had at the time, had been a good engine, but it pulled down a liner. It was still under warranty, and it pulled down a liner. And Cummins wouldn't honor the warranty for it. They said I'd done something to it. They couldn't tell me what. There was no way I could have done something to it. But anyway, Cummins and I into a fight, and they lost my business after that. They're talking about the pipeline. Biden needs to shut down another pipeline. That'll make all things better, or it'll start a war. One of the two. Yeah, it's not a good. SoCal Salmon says he's glad he's not on the eastern seaboard, and I bet you a lot of guys are thinking that right now. I guess the squeeze is starting to come. It's getting hard for guys to find fuel. Trucker Harold, hey Trucker Harold, how are you doing? Says it's almost $4 a gallon in here in California now. Man, what year was that we quit running California, Kathy? And remember, the fuel bills were so bloody high then that we couldn't believe it. I think we'd spent something like $5,000 on fuel on the round. It was just awful. But yeah, California's expensive for all sorts of things. It's expensive. Tim Fields wishes he could build one with an 18-speed. Huh. Yeah, that's what I've got now, and I really do like it. I liked the 15-speed too, but it had the same problem as the 10. The throw up into the last gear, the top hole, was quite a stretch. A little bit too far for the truck to pick up unless you had, a 700 horse motor or better. Which I didn't. There's something I never did was monkey with the engines, because I never wanted to void my warranty on them. Lettuce King had no problem at all, but none of his engines were under warranty because he built them himself, so he didn't have to worry about that. And if he blew one up, he knew how to fix it. So different strokes for different folks, I guess. Wayne Blue says, I have a 2018 389 with an X15 and cannot get any better than 5.5 miles to the gallon. Doesn't matter if I'm pulling my Conestoga or a reefer unit. Would a tuner or deleting the DEF system help out more? Wayne, I'm tempted to say absolutely it would, but I don't want to, get you into trouble for deleting the engine. So have a look at where you run, as long as you're not in California. But I'm sure it would help. I'm sure it would help.
Kyle, thank you very much for the $20 donation, my friend. Just did some weight reduction on an IS6, 1 more mile per gallon now, and some power.
Oh, that's good. Some weight reduction on an ISX.
Get it?
No, I don't get it. Weight reduction on an ISX. Tell me, explain it to me. I like Kelly Patterson says, I like the scenery and weather in California, but you could not pay me to live there. Yeah, yeah, me too. Me too. SoCal Sandman's jumped in. He says, tells Wayne he runs synthetic oil with an OPS1 bypass filter. Gives him an extra mile to the gallon, which is nothing to sneeze at all. So maybe there's a good tip right there for you, Wayne. Trucker Harold says he lives in Arizona, but Arizona's getting expensive too. Everybody wants to retire in Arizona. I would have liked to have retired in Arizona. Kathy says I still can, but it's a long commute back up here to do the stream every week. Yeah, Nomadic Brit's mentioning the I-40 bridge. They've got closed down by Memphis there, and they figure it's going to be weeks and weeks before they fix it. It's a big deal. Grilled Mortal is here. Hey, Grilled Mortal, how are you doing? Who removed the block?
They're trying to tell you in code language when you lost weight on the engine that they did a delete.
So that's what he means. Okay. Appreciate it, Kathy. Thank you. Yeah. You ever think you'd see the day? What trucks, newer trucks, have no DEF stuff on it? Tired of regen. Mr. Abdi, they've all got them now. If you want to buy a truck without a DEF system on it, you have to go like 2005 and lower, because they were monkeying them. By 2007 they had them plugged up a little bit. So 2005 or lower, and you'll have an emissions-free truck pretty much. They started with the emissions mandates in late 2003, but the engine manufacturers weren't really on board yet. So there weren't too many differences from 2003 to 2005 or 6. 2007 was the start of the serious emissions systems.
Gotta lean into it. Try that.
Jocelito, Dave still sounds like a little low. Yeah, we're working on that. Is that any better?
No, you're working on it.
Yes, I'm working on it. Is that coming through better now? Fred says there's something wrong with the X15 for 5.5 miles to the gallon. He's getting 8.5 out of his. Wow. Geared low in the back end though, 279 rears. Kind of a nice setup. But boy, that's pretty good mileage. You can't sneeze at 8.5. Tim Field says 2000 and older doesn't have DEF or DPF, just EGR. Right. And the newer have DPF 2013 was when they started with the DEF fluid. SoCal Sandman says his is an 05. And did it come with anything on it in the way of emission stuff, SoCal? Probably just the timing. They probably just set the timing differently or something back then. But no true emissions equipment. I'm guessing though. Let me know. Trekker Herald. Oregon's getting worse than California with its strict diesel emissions. Is that right? I hadn't heard that, but I could believe it. And the EPA now is clamping down on all the states to get tougher about it. They, California was the first one to the gate, but now the EPA is pushing all the states, and a lot of them are jumping in line with it. New Jersey, Oregon, here are two of them right there. My 2019 Mack Anthem has 728,000 miles on it, and it gets 9 miles to the gallon. Trekker Herald. Pretty good mileage. You can't sneeze at that. You hear that, Josh? 9 miles to the gallon in his Mack Anthem. You can't complain about that at all. Oh, SoCal says he just has the EGR in his. And that's, you've had no trouble with that, eh? That's good. That's good. The next gen 579 with the PACCAR powertrain is getting 8 miles to the gallon. I know they work on the PACCAR engines constantly, trying to improve them. And according to, like I was saying earlier, according to Google now, they are the most trouble-free new engine available, if you can believe Google. Scott Kuhn. I'm averaging 7 miles to the gallon, my X15, and he pulls doubles running the Midwest. So that's pretty respectable fuel mileage too, pulling doubles. Darn right. Darn right. That was Scott Kuhn. Lee Harvey. Warm up the Pete, Dave. Produce rates in Salinas, Chicago are paying $9,000 to $10,000 from Salinas to Chicago. One pick, one drop. Lee, you're breaking my heart right now. Boy, that's good. That's serious money.
Take you 2.5 weeks.
It wouldn't take me 2.5. Kathy says it'd take me 2.5 weeks to do the trip. I'm not that far gone yet. But yeah, it's pretty serious money in produce coming out of California these days, because they can't get trucks between the emissions equipment issues, and a lot of guys during the pandemic dropped out of trucking, and a lot of them didn't come back, and it's driving the rates up, and I'm all for that. Anytime that happens, God knows we could always use more money. SoCal Sandman's thinking about buying a reefer now. So I'm going to, my old cat, I'm gonna swap out my old oil and put synthetic T6 shell in it now, and see how that works for me. See if that treats me well. I was talking to Caterpillar about it because I wanted to check with them first, because my motor's so old. They said, no, you'll be fine, don't worry, go ahead and do it. So tomorrow, that's what I'm doing. Dylan's got a 2022 Freightliner, 7.6 lots of 40K pound loads. They say, they used to say that when you had a new engine, you should pull heavy with it for the first little while to help break it in so it was strong. I don't know if they still say that anymore or not, but that used to be the theory anyway. Was pin onto a couple of really good heavy loads, work the motor really hard, and the break-in would be better if you did it that way. The break-in period. Tim Field says 9 miles a gallon on the PACCAR. My company trucks with PACCAR M16 MX13s are getting barely 6, but they're heavy hauler intermodal. So yeah, I'm sure the weight would affect some of it sometime, somehow. It just have to. There's a big difference in fuel mileage when you're only pulling 10,000 pounds as compared to pulling better than 40. There's a big fuel difference right there. I hauled air freight for a couple years, like SoCal Sandman, and the loads were always really light. And I got pretty damn good mileage. That was one of the best things about pulling air freight, was it was all light stuff. Kaz says, we even looked into PDI rebuild kits. Oh no, have I ever looked into PDI? They're what I use now. Run them hard and seat the rings. I at one point, it's kind of too late in the game for me now, but looked seriously at PDI turbo, and I had a friend of mine that bought one. He said it was the difference between night and day. The shaft was longer, so it allowed more air into the fins, and he said it was just an awesome piece of equipment after that. So I never did get to that stage where I had to swap out the turbo, but I thought, well, if I ever do, I'll get PDI, and that was what the guys at Four States were recommending too, was the PDI stuff. Zachary, what do I think about car hauling? It used to be really lucrative, and now I think it's like anything else that was lucrative at one time. I think the rates are going down because there's so many guys who've gotten into it. The thing I learned about hauling cars is that you had to be very careful to check the whole vehicle and take pictures and everything, because half the time when you got to the other end, if it was a high dollar car, the guy would try to drop the transportation cost by saying, oh, you put a scratch in it. You put a scratch in it over here, and want to take that off his transportation rate, and that's why you had to take the pictures to go, no, it was there before I loaded it. But yeah, get another scam for car haulers, but it made really good money back in the day, and I think sadly I think they still make pretty good money, but I don't think it's anywhere near what it used to be. Fairly clean work though. Can't complain about that. Kyle says, I said PDI, I meant IPD. Oh, okay. No problem. But you know who PDI is, right? Down in St. George, Utah. We got an awesome shop down there. Turok Blackrock says hi. Hi, Turok. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us, man. Trucker Herald says nobody wants to drive anymore, and the companies are getting desperate. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. There's that one article I read the other day that was quoting the boys from Covenant, which was a funny article to read. But anyway, they didn't like it when construction season came, because all the guys that could be driving for Covenant were going to hire on as construction crew guys, make better money, and be home every night. That was frustrating the Covenant team, but oh well. Maybe they should pay better in the first place. They wouldn't lose guys to construction companies. Roger Penske says there's a lot of snowbirds from Canada as well in the United States down here in Phoenix. Yeah, yes there is so. Our hockey team stinks, however. Your favorite team will play a game or two down here. Yeah, there's a lot of people from Alberta and BC, like the west coast side of Canada, head straight south and hang out in Phoenix for the winter time. And you can understand why. Phoenix is like that whole part of southern Arizona is just beautiful. There it is. PDL has to follow EPA mandated engine programming. Well, I think everyone is supposed to follow that now. A lot of guys, I still talk to guys that are sneaking in and out of California with their emissions engines. I don't have the nerve to try it, but I know some guys are still going in at night, loading, and come back out of there again. Tim Field, the issue with drivers is my generation doesn't want to do anything with their hands. They just want to be lazy. They want to use their brains. The new generation doesn't like manual labor as much, I don't think. Just my opinion. Hey, GB Transco's here. Welcome. Glad you could join us. Roger Penske says, I think the running hard as a break-in was specifically for two-cycle engines. And that could be. That could be. Kelly Patterson, harder game to find good qualified drivers, the better pay and benefits we'll get. Yes, that's right. It's somebody mentioned earlier, supply and demand. But that's, I think it was SoCal Sandman. That's exactly right. The lower the supply, the higher the demand, the more money. So, yeah, I say hang in there. The pay's going to get better. And you see, all the big carriers now are offering more money, and that's why they just can't get good drivers. The smaller outfits and the better outfits, they're not struggling. It's just the big cheap old mega carriers that are suffering, which is fine with me. Roger Penske says, "Oh yes, the delivery of cars checked by the fat respond with the cheeky mustache, the pinky ring, and the suspenders." I wasn't sure where you were going there for a second, Roger, but pretty funny. What's the best over-the-road company for experienced drivers? I gotta say, I like GP Transco. I gotta say, check them out. Roger Penske, I was just in St. George on Monday. Always a gorgeous drive to the Virgin River Gorge. That is pretty through there. I always loved going through there. We used to have to, years ago, before Canadians out of Ontario could get operating authority through Arizona, we used to have to take like the back route across through Utah and down into Nevada and skip that little corner Arizona. And for years we had to do that until Ontario finally got smart and joined IFTA. And then we got to run on 15 through Arizona to Vegas. And it was a hell of a lot better than going through the desert, a lot faster.
You never mentioned the Mac engines.
No, that's true. Now, there was one fellow on there that mentioned his Anthem. Mac Anthem was doing really well, but Mac still makes their own engines, I believe, and some of them hold up very well. There are a lot of diehard Mac fans, like on the Eastern Seaboard out here this way. I got an offer delivering produce to military installations in a reefer. Home most nights. Know nothing about reefer. What do I need to know? Mike Rainey. Mike, we did a video on that that'll help you out. Sorry, Kat?
2?
We did 2 videos on how to run reefer and haul produce.
Part 1 and Part 2.
Check them out.
Part 1 and
Part 2.
300 horse Mac.
That was the first Mac I ever drove. Was a 300 horse. Kyle says Mac now is Volvo engines. That could be right too, because Volvo owns them now. But as to whether or not Mac still makes their own, or whether they just combine forces for the motors, I couldn't tell you.
So go through to the manufacturers and pick the best engine out of each.
I'd have to say, if I'm going through the manufacturers and who made the best engine, if I start with Cat, it would be the 6NZ motor, the C15 6NZ engines. Cummins, I always really liked the really old KTA series. They were a great engine. But you know, some of their big cam motors were really good too. I'd have a hard time picking the best motor Cummins ever did. So look at what SoCal Sandman has done here, over 3 million miles. That's obviously a good motor too. So tough to pick for Cummins. Detroit, absolutely no question. The 60 series been their best motor by far. Packar's only got the one block really, so you can't choose one from their field. It's just a matter of tuning it up or down, but they're still a 13-liter motor or 12-liter motor. Kyle Foster says, what's the best engine to get for a Pete 389? Kyle, I'd spec the Packard motor just because you'll get longer, bigger, better warranty. If the whole drivetrain is Packard and the truck is Packard, you'll get better warranty. So for a new Peter at Kenworth, I'd be putting a Packard engine in it. Fred Besmer knows what I'm talking about. The old Trans-Canada route, open range from Utah to Nevada. That's right. That's what we used to call it, was the Trans-Canada. That's right. Man, that takes me back some years. GP Transco says, we decided to start putting the names of our company drivers on their driver's door for some personalization. They can pick the name or the nickname that they want to display on the door. That kind of personalizes the truck, and that's kind of nice. Yeah, I bet you your guys are happy about that. Good move. It helps attach the driver to the truck, and you know, he'll treat it like his own more, I think. Oh, good move, smart. Colorado B. Are Volvo autos better than the Eaton? Anyone? Yeah, I couldn't tell you, but somebody here will be able to tell you that. That's from Colorado B. You guys know that stuff. Kyle says if you haul heavy with the 389, he recommends the X15, meaning the Cummins. And certainly there's nothing to be frowned upon when it comes to cubic inches. It's the Cummins motors are simply bigger. They're a 15-liter or a 16-liter engine as compared to a 13-liter engine. So like more cubic inches, and certainly, you know, if you're pulling heavy stuff, the more cubic inches, the better. Dave, plan on having a meet and greet when you try out that new Tesla from GP. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I really am. I can't imagine. I don't imagine they make any noise, kind of like the cars. And it's hard to imagine rolling down the highway in a truck that's just dead quiet. I'm gonna have to try that to experience it. Mack M Drive, Volvo Shift, and Detroit DD12 puts the Eaton automated transmissions to shame. We run them all in our fleet. That's from Jesse. Appreciate the input there, Jesse. My company already told me that they are putting the kid on my next truck when they order the new Pete 379. So you're going to be the kid, like Billy the Kid. Billy, it'll be Tim the Kid. That's cool. What do I think about the Navistar ProStar 13-liter? That's from Ruben. These days I don't know how they're doing. That was the engine that got International into hot water because they pumped it out and produced it, and it didn't really meet the emissions requirements that Navistar said it did. So Navistar kind of got caught. Then they started having trouble with the motors. So I don't know how the new ones are or if they're even making them anymore. Last I read about that, Navistar had cut a deal with Cummins for their engines because they were having trouble with the gas CoStar motors. The PACCAR has head gasket issues when pulling heavy, and that's why he recommends the X15. That's from Kyle. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah. Head gasket issues are not an uncommon problem. The cats all suffered from that as well.
Dumb and T Green Beans was thank you very much for the $5 donation, my friend. Why can't those companies pay the drivers better in order to keep them?
Good question, and some of them do. Some of them do, but the big mega carriers have to respond to the shareholders because they're publicly traded. So most publicly traded companies, their first concern is to keep the shareholders happy, to keep bringing in more shareholders, and they do that by saving money and not paying the drivers very well. But there are the good companies out there that recognize that the way to keep good drivers is to pay them well and treat them well and give them good equipment. There are carriers out there that recognize that, and thank God, or trucking would be a complete wasteland. But no, there's still good carriers out there. Kelly Patterson, I've already made my submission for the nickname on my truck. Well, Kelly, share with us. What's the nickname going to be? Huh. SoCal Sandman says, our company just gave us all a big raise for that very reason. Huh. Yeah, but, what was I going to say there? Anyway, SoCal Sandman's works for a good carrier as it is anyway. Forward Air, I got it. Geez, I'm getting old. Forward Air is a good outfit. Okay, I'll chime in again. Navistar has the A26 12.4 liter engine nowadays with the Cummins aftertreatment system. Huh. Ours are rated at 475 horse, 1700 torque. They pull decent, but it also has an Eaton auto transmission. Well, Jesse, I appreciate the update on that. I wasn't sure whatever came out of that. So I knew they were in a deal with Cummins, but that's how it works, eh? Navistar still produces the block and the engine itself, and they use the Cummins after treatment emission systems. Yeah, because that was where they got into trouble. They couldn't get their emissions down to legal. Well, good to know. Thank you. Appreciate that. GP Transco's booking a load to Canada this week. That's cool. Looking forward to that, really am. Paul Hudson, I wondered if you were still incarcerated. Thought you were thinking about coming south sometime.
Just tell the truth.
I'm
still incarcerated.
I'd love to come south, and they have us under a stay-at-home order right now here because of the COVID thing. We can't even hardly go across town to go shopping, let it go down to Illinois. But sooner or later, this whole mess will be over, I hope. Grilled Mortal, if more trucks had perometer gauges and drivers paid attention to them, I believe there'd be less money on head gaskets. Interesting perspective. I was shocked to find out recently that not all trucks come with perometers. That was that was the standard as an RPM gauge and a speed gauge back when I drove was a perometer. But now they produce trucks without them. Saves money, I guess, but I can't imagine driving without one, especially in the hills. Because we would shift back then according to the perometer temperature. Once you got to 900 degrees, you knew it was time to change a gear. This is from Tim Field. Have I seen the video of Nicola Day Cab. Yes, I have. Yes, I have, and I'm assuming you're talking about the cab overs now that they're wanting to produce for the American market, and I think they're a sharp looking truck. I like the Nicole. They're up and down financially, I gather, but I like the trucks. I like the trucks. Cool looking day cabs. And I think Elon Musk could use some serious competition. Excuse me. SoCal Sandman says they think you're a super spreader for like COVID.
That's why they're locking me down.
That's why they've got me locked down, so I can't infect anybody. We live in a little town, and I don't even think we have a case reported right now. Kathy, maybe correct me on that, but I don't even think there's one case in town right now. And the most we ever had was 4.
Pizzaville.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the local Pizzaville had a guy, their delivery guy, got COVID because he was down in Barrie. Wait a minute, what's going on here? Yes, no, they're cutting me up again. That's all right. The Dodge Man 50. I have an aftermarket barometer gauge on my Dodge. It's not a big rig, but they still are useful, even in a pickup truck. Huh. Yeah, I think they're a gauge, like a must-have gauge. I can't imagine having a truck without one, but anything to save a buck sometimes, these manufacturers or the companies ordering these fleet trucks. When I worked briefly for a company called Trimac, you've probably all heard of them. I drove a company truck for them, and they were so cheap that they would order their trucks without insulation in them, and they didn't even have fuel gauges. We had to dip the fuel gauges with a yardstick to see how much fuel we had. It was just the height of cheap. I didn't last there very long. They were local to me, like they were handy just up the street, but never again. In Finland, we have the Scania 16-liter V730 horse, 2,900 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah, I've been reading about those, Kai. I want one to come here. Those engines are supposed to be incredible motors. I've been reading about them. And Scania is making noise, like they're coming to the North American market. So I sure hope they do. I'd sure love to drive one of those. They're a good looking truck. Tim Field says, dang, these motors can only take 900 degrees on the probe. My Duramax is tuned at 500 horse and can hit 1500 all day long. That one engine that the Lettuce King had, that big Marine Cat that he had in his one Pete, it would pull like Jack the Bear. He never had to shift a gear going to the coast, but it was temperature sensitive. And if he wasn't watching the barometer, he had like a built-in Kaiser shutdown. So if the engine temperature got too hot, the exhaust temperature got too hot, it would just shut the truck off. And you'd get him talking, go up through the mountains, you get him yakking away and chatting away on something, distract him from watching his gauges, and all of a sudden the truck would just quit and he'd coast to the side. He'd be cursing you for keeping him from focusing on the drive. But Kaiser shutdown to prevent overheating. That was an awesome truck, that whole truck. Huh. Scott Kuhn says, I wanted promoter with the X15, can't because of the DPF I had with the N14. N14 was, I had 3 of those? 3, I believe. And the only problem I had was with the last one that pulled down the liner, like I was saying. But they weren't the most powerful motor, but they were certainly reliable back in the day. And that was a big cam 3 that pulled down the liner on me, and that was when I switched. No. Duramax are nice till the fuel pump grenades at 12K. Yeah, that's not good. Pull like Jack the Bear until the fuel pump blows. Hopefully, hopefully they're easy to change on those. I don't know. Oh man. That old silver 92 of Logical Bob's, when it decided to grenade, it was an event. Like it was like a small explosion. And back then, you know, he had the cab over Freightliner, so the engine is underneath the doghouse, right beside him. When the engine blows, he said it scared the living hell out of him a couple of times. Tim Field says his Duramax hasn't had any issues on the fuel pump. Probably Grilled Mortal had his tuned up. Bet you that's why you blew it, didn't you? Tell the truth. You had one of those chips in there. All sorts of guys like those chips. I was up at the shop that I used last year, and a guy with a brand new Dodge with a Cummins in it had chipped it right up to like 1,000 horse, had blown the motor out of it, and Cummins was stepping away, going, "Nope, had no warranty for you, son." Roger Penske, I'll try this one more time, Dave. Did you encounter any aliens or mysterious flying aircraft taking that bypass to the Utah Nevada desert? No. The only one I ever encountered was up in North Dakota at night one time. I swear I saw a flying saucer, but no, I never. Mind you, I didn't try to cross through there in the dark either, Roger. I usually did that in the daytime shuffle. I'd be coming down. I'd probably spend the night in Little America and then come down and be into Vegas for that night. So I was doing it in the daylight, and some days I was glad I did, because it's kind of a windy, narrowy little road. But no, I never did it in the dark. So I if there were flying saucers there, I missed them. If I were stuck at home, I'd take a swig or two of the sauce too, Dave. Yes, just sometimes you just have to calm your nerves. His was probably a CP4, Tim says. Those were garbage. Josh Bulldog, hey Dave, I'm a Peterbilt 389 guy now. Glad to hear. Welcome away from the dark side there, Josh. Glad you could join us over here. 389's a good truck. Cummins makes a good engine too. You just, it seems with Cummins you either get a real good one or a real bad one. But some of their motors, like the KTA, they were a great engine. Hard as hell on fuel, but great motor. I don't know if any of you guys have seen any of Jason Keeler's trucks. He's out of Pennsylvania and he runs big KTA motors in his. Takes them to truck shows and stuff. Boy, maybe the sharpest looking truck in North America. One or two of his. And both of them with KTAs. SoCal Salmon says, I encounter aliens all the time at various truck stops. Yeah, I've seen some pretty wild shows at the truck stops late at night. I never thought of them maybe being aliens, but maybe that was the thing. Maybe they really were. I know what you're talking about there. If that trip south ever occurred, the best place to meet and greet would be our place in Morris. I was asking someone the other day if that was open through this deal or not, because it is a great restaurant. I ate there a lot. Well, I guess we should wrap it up. Next week's video, or Friday's video, not next week's video, but Friday's video is all about me complaining about the emissions engines and how badly I think they hurt the trucking industry as I knew it. So please tune in for that. Grab that video. Have a look. Appreciate you all joining us today. Hope you guys Stay safe. Enjoy the week. Take care. Keep the rubber side down. And I'll see you on the backhaul.